Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Lewis Speaks 2024, and today I want to talk to you all about the truth about awareness. We're not always aware of how something may have impacted us in life. For example, I was not aware of how much not having a father has impacted my life. I was not aware how not having that protection system, not having that male guidance, not having that male leadership has impacted my ability to oftentimes be responsible, to show tenderness, to be present. So there are times when we lack the awareness of how certain things that happen to us in life have impacted us. I'm sure that people who have experienced childhood sexual abuse, they're not always aware of how that has impacted their relationships with other people. People who have experienced domestic violence, people who have experienced abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, financial, spiritual, mental, psychological abuse, you're not always aware of how that has played out and influenced your decisions, you know? And so I think that as I mature, as I really, really sit with myself and meditate and think about the ways in which certain experiences have shaped my identity, I'm realizing that I was not always aware at the time. I was not always in the know. I didn't know that not having a dad would affect me so much. I thought that I got past it, I got over it, I was done. I was done. I've healed. Voila, I've healed. But I've realized also that healing is not a linear process. Healing is circuitous. Healing is circular. You basically just go through all these different motions trying to get to healing, but it's never a destination, it's a journey. And that's what I had to realize also, that even though I'm working towards healing, you're never fully healed. It's always something that you have to negotiate. You have to always make sure that you are cognizant of how you show up places, of how your wounds manifest. So that's part of adulting too. Learning exactly, how do my wounds show up in certain places? What are my triggers? What triggers the onset of these wounds? You know? And that's part of adulting. That's part of waking up and realizing, okay, I got to do my work. You know? I know that there's a wound there, there's something there. Especially if you notice that you're constantly going through the same situation over and over and over again. If you're constantly losing friendships, if you're constantly being evicted from your apartment, if you're constantly losing jobs, there's something going on. There's something happening that's causing you to constantly either self sabotage or constantly lose out on certain things, lose out on certain opportunities. What's happening? And so you have to do your work. I had to realize that my relationship with other men have suffered by not having my father. You know, I I don't trust other men. I don't believe that they have my best interests at heart. Um Sometimes I'm very leery of how other men are. I'm always questioning, and I realize that's because I had a father who was very inconsistent. I had a father who promised to show up for me, but never did. I had a father who rather used drugs than be present for me. And that made me feel very worthless. It made me feel unwanted. It made me feel unloved. And as a result of that, I threw myself into so many different toxic environments, so many toxic situations, trying to get that love, trying to get that support. I stayed too long at toxic jobs. I stayed too long in toxic relationships, trying to secure, the love that I never received from him. And so I never knew that. I never knew that not having access to his love affected me so deeply. Even my relationship with God was affected. And that's why men, if you have children, please take care of your children, because you could be undermining your child's spiritual legacy and you don't even know it. You are your child's first introduction to God. And so if you're not present, if you're not consistent, that could undermine their faith. That could cause them to lose trust even in God. You could destroy your child's spiritual legacy. And that's why we have so many children out here lost, aimless, wandering, losing their lives as a result of not having a father. Because a father is not only there for monetary support, but also spiritual guidance. A father is there to discipline. That is their primary role, disciplinarian. And discipline doesn't mean abuse, beating your child half to death. Discipline and correction also means exhortation, talking with your child. Discipline also means being present, providing that admonition, providing that tenderness, tender affection. A lot of young men don't know how to give affection, don't know how to give affection, don't know how to receive affection. All they know how to do is be abusive, because they're operating from what they believe is a man. They're operating from this warped and distorted definition of masculinity, And so I feel that fathers, they are essential, I also think that fathers provide awareness. They provide a window of insight for young boys especially. Most of these young boys, they're looking for a mentor. They're looking for a leader. They're looking for support. They don't always know how to navigate life. And the funny thing is that when you don't have a father or a present, involved, masculine force in your life, you oftentimes have to learn lessons in a very hard manner. A lot of the lessons that you learn are hard won. You have to go through hell and back just to basically get the lesson, And so the initial topic of this video, to bring it full circle, was awareness, and how we're not always aware of how certain things affect us. But the thing about it is you have to take a moment, step back away from the situation. How is this really affecting me? When you're younger, of course, you don't think that deeply. It's only when you mature do you really come into awareness. You start to realize that I denied, and maybe that's just a coping mechanism that we use in order to get through really difficult situations. We deny the full gravity of the situation as a way to get through it. Maybe that's what we do. That's how we get through things. But at the same time, we have to take a moment and just really reflect. How did not having access to caretakers really affect me? How did not having access to money, safety, security, how did that really affect me? and my choices, and being really honest, radically honest. Radical honesty is necessary if you are to heal. I have to say that again. Radical honesty is necessary if you are to heal. You don't get anywhere by continuing to perpetuate lies and continuing to live in delusions or illusions. You have to really be honest with yourself and be able to withstand the truth. Sometimes the ego, in an attempt to protect itself, creates these defense mechanisms, and we don't acknowledge, we don't see, we dissociate from the truth. And to heal, you have to be willing to associate with truth. You have to be willing to be present with the truth and tell yourself, how did this really affect me? How did not having these things that I needed affect my life? And then begin to do the work. Begin to reparent yourself. Begin to give yourself the things that you need. Begin to associate and align yourself with people that are motivated to invest in you. But you got to tell yourself the truth. So I hope this video landed on everyone's heart. Please begin to tell yourself the truth about what it is you experienced, and begin to take ownership and responsibility. And step one is for one being able to tolerate truth. We are a generation now that can't tolerate truth. Anytime somebody tells us the truth about their behavior or about our behavior, let's bring it back to us. Anytime somebody tells you the truth about your behavior in this generation, the first thing we do is get defensive. We get defensive. We accuse the other person of judging us when they're only trying to exhort us, when they're only trying to show love. You know, it's time we stop being so defensive and start really being honest. That's essential. You gotta be honest if you are to heal. So I hope this video was helpful, and I wish you all a wonderful 2024. Peace, y'all.